Hello everyone, Ginger Gargoyle here. Figured I would do a quick video on stamps and stamping. Now, as many of you may recall, I just got some Avery L inks, and I have never used Avery L before. And these are pigment ink, which means they take a really long time to dry. If you can't find your Versamark for doing your glitter, or your embossing, you can actually take and use the pigment ink. It doesn't work with glitter, but it will work with the embossing powder. It stays wet long enough for the embossing powder to be held in place while you take your heat tool to it. I suggest drying from underneath, or heating from underneath until your embossing powder starts to melt, but otherwise it works really well. That's just me. It's not just Avery L. It's all my pigment inks I do that with. I heat from underneath. Now, the question is, you get a new ink stamp. Okay? What do? Now, what I tend to do with my ink stamps when I first get them, especially with, well, the wood-mounted ones, I will take and I will put a dot in the upper left-hand corner, so that when I'm in a hurry to stamp, I know top from bottom. Because if I had picked that up this way and stamped with it this way, it would have said, thank you, upside down. This way, I know to look for the dot. Now, I like to use sticker dots. You can use whatever you happen to like. I chose Dazzles. And all you do is, let's see if I can do this one-handed. You pick up the corner, or you pick up the dot. I should have had this off already. You pick up the corner, or you pick up the dot. Let's see if I can do this. Yes, I'm doing this back on my bed again until I get my craft room, which won't happen until my oldest daughter moves out. Okay. Now, some of you may recognize these. These are hot off the press Dazzles. And of course, it won't do it now that I'm on camera. Isn't that just the way? Wow. Okay, hang on. I'm going to set you up because it's pretty paper. This is paper that I got a long time ago from, I want to say I got it from QVC, but I may have gotten it from Hirschner's. Every once in a while, Hirschner's and QVC will have a really great sale that I just can't pass up. This came in a pack. It was a stack of papers, so I got those. Okay, so now this one I didn't mark yet. Now, this one I had to put a bright light on in order to find where the top was, so I'm really going to make sure that I mark this one. Okay, and I just push it on there. And I have yet to lose one of these. I'm sure that it will eventually happen, but I would rather take the time to do this now while they're still new than wait till I make a mistake and then try to do it. Now, I've done this with clear stamps, the clear rubberized stamps, where I might have an issue, like the words, and I'll put a little black X with a black permanent marker in that corner, since the stickies don't stick to those rubberized stamps. Okay, now, what else can you do to prepare your stamps? Well, one thing I really like to do, and I do this especially with my clear acrylic stamps because they really need to be prepared, is I stamp them off first, especially if I get a new ink. Okay, so this is what the Jungle looks like from Avery L, and I did that with the Happy Birthday. And then I know exactly what I get with my stamp, because if you look at the stamp, okay, if you look at the stamp, it looks as if it's going to stamp this background. It doesn't do that. It just stamps Happy Birthday. Okay? Then this next one was the Avery L Raspberry. And now I can see how light that is, so I re-stamped it with the Distress Ink Candy Apple. But you can see that the raspberry is a very, very light ink. Alright, and now I keep these inside my notebooks so that I know where they're at. Okay, here's the Avery L. Celery. Now this does two things. Number one, it shows me exactly what stamps, so I know that this thank you does not have a solid background, that I will have to take and color it in myself. Okay, which they try to show with the two different colors, but doesn't really show up until you stamp it. Okay, don't worry, be happy. Or think happy, be happy. Okay, that one, that was stamped with the celery. And you can definitely see that there's a color difference between the celery and the jungle. And then down here, the Avery L, this is mimosa, and this is the orchid. Now, you'll notice that the orchid stamped darker, but if you look at the ink pads, it looks as if the mimosa is going to be darker than the orchid. And I think what this could be, and I will have to re-ink these again to see, is that perhaps my ink pad wasn't ready, or my ink stamper wasn't ready yet. Lots of times the processing that they use to make your stamps leaves kind of a film on there, and it's nothing you can peel off. It's more like an inky, oily residue, and that really needs to come off your stamp. Well, there's a couple of ways to do that. You can take a pencil eraser, just a regular old pencil eraser, which I do not have handy. I do not think. No, I do not have handy. And you can run it over the top of your stamps, and that will take off a good majority of it. You could take your sand-it block, and you can rub it over the top of it. Now it might scrape up your stamp, and you might end up with those lines. You might like that distressed look. You might not, but that will also work. Nail file you could do it with too, but again, you might end up with the scratches. The other thing you can do is stamp with it. The more you stamp with it, the clearer it gets. Okay, that might be what happened here, is that perhaps this first inking didn't get enough ink on there because of the residue, but the second inking did. So I will have to see what's going on with that one. I may have to do another inking of it over here. In fact, why don't I do that right now? Take my no, that's not my mimosa. Take my mimosa, open it up, okay. One thing I noticed with Avery L is they are very, very juicy. See? Very, very juicy. Put my lid back on because I'm doing this on my bed. I don't want to ruin my bedspread. Give it a huff. You can hear me huffing on it, which means that I'm putting my hot breath on it. Give it another really good ink in a press. Lift it up. See, it did so much better. Oh, and I did it on top of the other thing. Okay. Now, that tells me that chances are this one was done and it still had residue on it. So I really did do it there. I'm going to give it another shot. I'm not going to re-ink it. I'm just going to do a second generation. Now, see? That came up, second generation. I didn't huff on it or anything. But that's the second generation. You can see that it's lighter. But I like that look. I think that's a really cute look. I've got a card challenge coming up. This is giving me some ideas. But I just wanted to give you those quick hints. Now, I like to keep a notebook. This is not my regular notebook for keeping my stampers in. Whenever I get new stamps, I like to stamp them. I like to put down the ink that I used, what set they're with, and go with it from there. These are just the set that I'm going to do another video so you can see where I got these from. But, so now you can see how you should or could prepare your stamps. Have a nice day. Bye.